see how we do here. So I started it. Maybe a little bit of a delay. We'll check it. We'll check it. We'll check it.
Oh, you all right?
That was a hell of a sneeze, bro. Whoa. Get back today, man. Feeling it, buddy. Close this out and open it back up. Is it showing that you can click on the link and we're live or no?
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna click on the link now.
Because like I'm on it, but it still shows for me it's live in 8 minutes and 42 seconds.
It says live.
It says live
Yeah,
for
I see
you?
it. Yeah, I see it.
Okay, mine's effed up then.
Okay, but yeah, it shows we're live.
All
I'm
right, can
looking
you
at
at
it.
least hear me?
Let's see. Yep.
Because like I'm on it, but it's
Yep,
okay,
I can hear you.
Perfect. Let's go.
That's live.
Hell yeah, let's go. All right. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. We are Selfless Little Gaming. I am Selfless_gaming. You can find me on all my socials down in the description down below. This is our podcast. This is my co-host, Little Jacob. We're going to be talking tonight about the Browns finally letting the dog out in Dashaun Watson. We're going to be covering some teams that we think are currently being overlooked that actually could be some playoff contenders and make a run deep in the playoffs. We're also going to be breaking down some performances of people that are doing really well right now, some that need to be picking it up, and then what is the overall like status for some of these iconic players that we've had in the league for a long time, such as Aaron Rodgers. You guys be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, be sure to hit a like down there on the stream as well. But Little Jacob, go ahead and introduce yourself, talk about your socials and stuff, man.
Yeah, it's Little Jacob. It's Little with the 3 and 7E. You can also find me on TikTok, Twitch, Twitter. I do have a Facebook page as well, and YouTube. You can feel free to reach out to me on those socials. I'm sure I'm usually available most of the day, most of the time.
Hell yeah. And then, like I said earlier, I'm Selfless_gaming. All my socials and stuff are down below in the description. I also have Little Jacob's socials and stuff where you can find him with all the links down there as well. Victor, thank you for letting us know you can hear us and everything. I know last week we tried to do it. We had some technical difficulties, so we just kind of scrapped it and did the recording the way we normally do. But now we got everything ironed out, it looks like, so that's good. This will make uploading and everything like really easy because it'll just be done. So, all right. You want to talk about the big breaking news for this week coming up? You want to start off with that, or you want to wait a little bit?
Yeah, we can start off on that.
Okay. So, Dashaun Watson is going to be making his debut this week against the Houston Texans. Kind of ironic that he is making his debut against the Houston Texans, but it is what it is. What are your thoughts for his comeback? Like, what kind of projections are you giving him in his first game back? And do you think he even should be starting?
I know that we really touched on this in the beginning of the season about, like, you know, because we didn't know how it's going to go. And I know that I didn't assume that the Browns would be as good as they're playing or that Jacoby Brissett would be playing as good as he is at this point in the year. But I know that we did discuss, you know, hey, what if he has played really well and consistent enough to the point where the Browns are in a good position to make the playoffs? Do you just kind of like, you know, like do you take them out and stop the groove that they have going? Like, they already got a good thing going. Why mess with that? Would you go with Brissett and then throw in Dashaun Watson? Because obviously it's not just been a few weeks since he's played in an NFL game. Aside from like a brief preseason showing, he really hasn't played football in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So with all those things that entail, I'm sure he's in great shape. I'm sure he's taking a lot of snaps and practice, but like we were kind of talking about the last podcast, there's a difference between being ready and conditioned outside of football. You can do all the workouts you want, you can be in great shape, but being in football shape, being able to be in the games, going through the motions, going through the plays and the drives, it's a whole other thing. I don't know how he might be able to respond to that. I think there's a high upside though. I think that he will be ready because it's still a place that he's comfortable and he's been before. Obviously, he has a lot of good experience as a player. Back then, I kind of didn't feel like maybe that was a good idea to swap him out for Brissett if it was good like it is for them. But I mean, let's look at it like this: they're at 4-7. I think right now that what they want to do is get Deshaun Watson and get his feet wet before the next season starts to kind of get some of those games under his belt and get him in a better position. I think this probably would be the best time to start him rather than waiting until next year, especially with the position that they're in. If the Cleveland Browns were 7-4 instead of 4-7, I might feel a little bit different about it. I might feel, well, you know what, we should probably keep Brissett in to keep things grooving the way they have been. But yeah, I say it's definitely the time to let him in. I just think it's ironic that it's going to be against the team that he formerly played for, a team that he said, I just don't want to play here anymore. Yeah. And then it kind of seemed like after he said that, everything with his career kind of went downhill at one point or in a snag. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. You expect some kind of rust from him for sure, but I think the upside will be good if you're in fantasy. I think the upside for him might be good.
So for me, I think the biggest thing that you touched on there was the fact that they are 4-7 and they don't really have a chance to make the postseason this year. So like you've paid this guy a lot of money and you've given him a lot of guaranteed money. Like I'm pretty sure it's over like $200 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely insane to say. But for me, I look at it two different ways. One, I think he has to establish chemistry with the team because he's been able to practice and he's been able to use the facilities, but he's not been able to go into any like joint practices with them. From my understanding, he hasn't been able to go to team meetings, anything like that until this week. Yeah. So obviously he's a professional athlete. He's been working on his conditioning, his footwork, all that stuff, throwing, all that. But it's different when you're actually with the team. And the second aspect of it is guys know they're going to have him for a long time. But at the same time, these guys are playing at a high competitive level and they want to win. And whether he did what he was accused of or not, he put his team in a bad situation. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys that respect Jacoby Brissett. Yeah. They appreciate what he's done for that team this year. And there's going to be some guys that are going to have some animosity towards him in that locker room. And he's got to win over that locker room. Like, he's got to win it over because he hasn't been there. And the easiest way to do that is to come back and perform well and perform at a high level that everybody's expecting him to. I think it's going to take him a little bit, though. Because like you said, he hasn't played games in years with his suspensions and stuff. So, hello, Bunny. How are we doing? I think those are the two biggest things, though. I think he needs to try to build up some chemistry with the team and actually like win back the locker room and earn those guys respect. And then second, I think he really has just got to play his style of game, but not rush it. Because he's going to have a lot of high expectations on him. And there's nothing worse for somebody to come in and have high expectations and try to do way too much, way too soon and make things worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, the other side of that, though, I think with the way Jacoby Brissett has played, he's guaranteed himself a position with that team for next year and forever how long. But I think he's also showcased that he's a guy that can come in and fill in for your team and take over if, let's say, like someone like Aaron Rodgers is gone and you don't believe Jordan Love's ready to go. you could bring in a Jacoby Brissett to fill in for that year while Jordan Love continues to develop if he's not where you need him to be. So I think he's shown that. Hell, even look at New Orleans. Like, Andy Dalton has been playing for them. Jameis Winston has not panned out like they wanted him to. I think Jacoby Brissett could be a very good fit for the New Orleans Saints, who desperately need a quarterback.
Yeah, a consistent, solid quarterback for them, for sure.
Yeah. So I think he's definitely like it's kind of been an opportunity for him to showcase like what he can still do, in the absence of Dashaun. But I do think it's time to get Dashaun back in there. Like, as much as I don't want to say it, because that guy's been playing for you all year and he's been doing a good job for you.
Yeah.
You're also paying this man a lot of money to sit there. So
I looked it up, and so he's getting paid $230 million over 5 years. He's guaranteed every penny of that money, which is crazy.
Every penny?
It says he's guaranteed every single, he's guaranteed the whole thing. Like, they're like, you know what? So basically, for everyone out there, it means that whether he quits, God forbid, he breaks his leg and can never play football again. If they fire him, if he goes to jail, it doesn't matter what happens to him in this planet. He is guaranteed $230 million by the organization, which is crazy. Because when you think, just not just in general, but because of the fact that kind of the stuff that he's gone through, the allegations, it's insane to guarantee that kind of money to a football player in general, because you also don't know what could happen in the long run over those 5 years. He could just play terrible. He could unfortunately get hurt and never play again. And then even if this guy is not able to perform because, let's say, he gets hurt, knock on wood, I don't wish anyone, they're still going to have to pay him that money, meaning they still have to accommodate for that loss of cap space to get new players, to pay the current players to stay. It can just be a really bad gamble to guarantee that kind of money to one guy in general. But yeah, it's a crazy amount of money to guarantee anyone in football, $230 million.
It's a stupid amount of money, man.
It's almost like he's like, how baseball players, those guys just get paid stupid money, but the rules are a bit different. They don't have like a cap or anything like that. Like, owners can pay them whatever they want. That's kind of the magnitude of this contract. The fact that you would get that much money over 5 years, and it's all guaranteed to you, no matter what, no matter how bad you play, no matter what happens to you, you're set. Like, he's set for life, pretty much.
You think Aaron Rodgers is done? You think he's officially done after this year?
I think with the Green Bay Packers, I think he is. I mean, Rodgers, just from looking at his standpoint, he's had the accolade, he's got all the accolades, he's made it to a Super Bowl and won. He's been consistent in one of the best regular season quarterbacks that we've ever seen play on a regular basis. But at this point now, and with the pieces that are missing from the Green Bay Packers, I don't think this is a place where he wants to end his career. I would think that if he's the competitor that he appears to be, he's going to want to go to a team that's more well and fully equipped. And it gives him a better chance of getting back to where he wants to be, and that's going to be, competing for the NFC Championship, for trying to get to a Super Bowl. I don't see Rodgers sticking around for Green Bay to rebuild, because honestly, he doesn't have that kind of time. He doesn't have that much time left to wait for a team to rebuild.
So I posed this question the other day because I saw it online in my fantasy football group chat. And anytime we talk about the Packers and we talk about Rodgers, there's one guy that literally just hates Aaron Rodgers in our group chat. He hates him. So I always post a question periodically about Rodgers, and they start debating back and forth, and then I'll put in the gif of a guy that just sits on the couch and grabs his popcorn and kicks his feet up and stuff, and everybody gets mad because they're like, dude, you literally come in here and stir the pot and then you don't say a word. And I think it's just funny the way they go at each other. But what I proposed was, I said, what if, and the trade deadline's already passed, so this really doesn't matter. All right. But yeah. I heard this take, and it was a very interesting take. Geno Smith is playing out of his mind right now.
Yep.
And he's not getting paid any money. Okay. He's very cheap. The Russell Wilson deal gave the Seahawks 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks. You trade Aaron Rodgers to Green Bay, or from Green Bay to Seattle for Geno Smith. Okay. They get a better quarterback with better talent around Rodgers because they have two really good running backs that you're not having to pay right now. You got Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, two great wide receivers, which he's always said he's never really had great wide receivers and stuff, which is a joke. But they can absorb that contract because they're not having to pay a lot of players right now. He's got two great offensive tackles on that offensive line as well. And then the Packers in return get Geno Smith, a great quarterback right now, who's like revitalized his career. Plus, you can give them a first round, second round, and third round pick in this year's upcoming draft. If you are a Green Bay Packers manager, would you take that deal?
I think I absolutely would. You're still going to be able to get some experience in your locker room as far as the quarterback goes. If you want someone to Jordan Love to still get mentored by or have someone to fall back on in case Jordan Love doesn't work out for you. I think the body of work that Geno Smith has been able to put together with that Seahawks offense would only complement the Packers at this point. You got a young quarterback that's willing to learn and take and get developed. And then you got another quarterback that would be experienced and ready to take control if need be, whenever need be. That sounds like a good trade. When you're thinking about the future for Green Bay, you're thinking about the future of your cap space and having to have the availability to pay, like you said, the two running backs, the good running backs that they have at some point. At some point, your receivers who are starting to play pretty good right now and get better. Some of the young guys, they're going to want to get paid. I think it's huge consideration, especially with how much cap space that Rodgers himself is taking up just being there. I think it was a mistake to give him that much money. And I think they know it was a mistake to give him that much money. And now, that's the only way that they're going to get out of it is if they find a trade that's suitable and have someone else take over that contract. So I think I would definitely do it because I'm trying to think about the future.
Here's my question for you. Why would Seattle do that, though? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the tricky part about it, because a lot of guys in the group chat were like, literally right now, Seattle has a ton of draft picks, and they have people that they're not having to pay a lot of money for.
That's true.
Why would they take a guy at the end of his career who's not playing well at all and actually, run that risk and give up what they could do with potentially younger talent coming in?
Yeah.
So
I think
because that's what I initially thought was man, that's actually a good deal for the Packers. But on the flip side of it, if I'm the Seahawks, I'm sitting there thinking, why the hell would I even do that? I have a quarterback that's playing great right now. Bryce Young's going to be coming out in the draft. You got some other kids that are going to be coming out in the draft if you really want to get a quarterback. But you have a first, second, third, both this year and the following year after from the Russell Wilson deal. So, why would I do that if I'm the Seahawks? I'm set up for the next 2 years. Now, and a lot of people thought they were going to tank this year, so they could have got more draft picks. They could have got a number one draft pick again with this year, but whatever.
I think if I was a Seahawks fan, I would be thinking that if we want to take a shot at winning now, a quarterback that could potentially get you there right now, instead of having to worry about drafting one or just kind of see, because we know that at some point that Geno Smith has a ceiling.
Yeah,
I would like to think, and this isn't a knock on him. This is just based on the entire career of both him and Aaron Rodgers, that Aaron Rodgers does have a higher ceiling ultimately than he does, especially when going into the postseason and the experience and winning postseason games. I think as a Seahawks fan, you would want to take it because you want to win something now, and you know that having Aaron Rodgers back there with someone like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and some good draft picks, it's a high probability that you're going to win a lot more ball games than you did this year, and gives you a higher, even more chance to get to where you want to be, which is competing for a Super Bowl, or at least getting to the NFC Championship game, which kind of seems like that's all Rodgers has been able to do since the one Super Bowl he won. But if you're a Seahawks fan, that's probably what you might be thinking, is that you want to win now. You feel more confident that's going to be an advantage and a good change for the team. I don't know anybody right now that would say, unless it's someone like the Bills or the Chiefs, that wouldn't want to take Aaron Rodgers to give him a shot, especially if there's weapons on offense that he can utilize, which, let's be honest, that offense for the Seahawks and that receiving locker room is way better than what the Packers got going on.
Yeah.
But so that's what I would be thinking if I'm a Seahawks fan. I'd probably feel like, yeah, I would want to take a shot with Rodgers because we took a shot with Geno and it's worked great and he's done his job. But if you're asking me if I'd be willing to take a shot at getting a guy like Aaron Rodgers back there with a team that's already been able to build this kind of success without him, yeah, I would want to do it. I would definitely want to try that out.
Yeah, so
The only thing is that contract thing that's kind of like,
right
that's
now,
probably the only thing that's kind of, yeah.
Geno's got 2,800 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
It's not bad at all.
Excuse me. And then Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers. He currently has this year, which I know is like way underperforming for him, 2,600 yards. 2,600 yards, 21 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So he's got 4 more interceptions, 2 more touchdowns, but he's got 300 yards less. Granted, he did leave Saturday's game or Sunday's game like early and stuff, but his quarterback completion or quarterback rating is 41.3, which is 27th overall. So that's like the reason I posed that question is because the guys, like a lot of guys had good points, and then for like Green Bay, and then other guys had really good points for Seattle. And to me, it was just kind of like, man, I don't even know, like with the way Rodgers has played this year, if like, because like all athletes go through this. All athletes have that point where their performance just drops. And for some people, it can be in their early 30s, some it can be mid 30s, some early 40s, mid 40s, like Tom Brady. I feel like we're actually starting to see Tom Brady play bad. I feel like we're actually seeing his performance dip with his age. And like him and Rodgers both, I said in that group chat, I said, this is the first year where I actually feel like both those guys are showing their age. You know? And every player has that. I don't know. When I really got thinking about it, if I was the Seahawks, you got a veteran guy who's been in the league a long time, who's finally getting another chance. I'd ride that out because you could have made that deal and brought Rodgers in. You got one or two things that's going to happen. It's going to be like a Matthew Stafford situation where they're going to go and win the Super Bowl. Or you just brought a guy into your core of a locker room and he has brought nothing but toxicity and like cancer, and it just completely dismantles that whole locker room because of his ego and stuff. And if I'm a Seahawks like owner and stuff, I'm not willing to risk that. If that was an option that was on the table. So, but it was, I don't know, it was just like a really good talking point a guy brought up, and I was like, damn, that's actually a good, like, that's actually a pretty good, like, turn of events that could have taken place there if that actually did happen and stuff. But
also, I probably look at, like, excuse me, what's more likely to happen? Is Geno Smith more likely to have a repeat or a similar season to what he did this year, which is arguably probably his best season he's ever had in his career? Or is it more likely for Aaron Rodgers to stay in the slump that he's in next year and still play just as bad? Which one do you feel like is more likely to happen? I personally feel it's most likely not going to be that bad for Aaron Rodgers next season as far as how bad how he's been playing. I think that's more likely that he'll play better or closer to what we're accustomed to. But yeah, I mean, that's also something else I would consider thinking about.
Man, I don't know. It's his age and stuff, dude. Like,
I
don't know, man.
Because him and Tom are at the age now where it's like, yeah, they can still kind of move around a little and they can kind of just slide when they need to, but for the most part, they're like dead leg quarterbacks. I mean, as long as you can put some kind of rush on them, you're gonna get them and you're gonna bring them down. They're at that age where they don't move as quick as they used to in the pocket. A lot of decisions they need time to make and can't get as creative as they used to be. And especially for Aaron. So It's tough to say because you don't know how well they're going to be protected too. Because Green Bay hasn't exactly been the best at protecting him either. They've let up a lot of sacks. I mean, just looking at the list here, I'm trying to see how many sacks he's taken this past year. I'm sure it's been a good number.
Talking about Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers has taken 187 sacks this season, which is crazy.
187 sacks?
Yeah, he's been getting smacked around.
Holy crap.
I think him is 187. That's like trailing behind Joe Burrow at 214. Geno Smith's taking a lot too, 217. And
Holy
Matt Ryan's just been getting pelted all season for 245.
This season.
This season. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait.
There's no
I'm so
way.
dumb. No. My bad. That's sack yardage. I apologize.
Okay, I was about to say because that's.
I just realized that's not possible. Yeah, never mind. I just realized that's not possible. Aaron Rodgers has been gotten sacked 24 times a year this year so far.
That makes
which
sense.
is a lot.
Which is
it's
basically 2 sacks a game.
Well, yeah.
I was about to say, bro, like when you
that's not to mention how many times he's gotten hit.
Yeah, that's
and knocked down, like not having the football. But no, yeah, he's been getting smacked around a lot this year, so they don't exactly have
20 sacks.
Yeah, I didn't realize what I was saying until I was like looking at the other guys. I'm like, what? And I was just like, nah.
Bro, I was about to applaud this guy's toughness. Like, Jesus.
You know what? I'm never making fun of you again.
No, you can't.
You're a tough guy. No, but yeah, he does take a regularly. He does get hit a lot, so it's hard to say. But I just don't think it's likely that Aaron Rodgers will have another terrible season like this season that he's playing. Possibly, if he has more decent protection. Probably has a little bit of better weapons and a team that he has chemistry with, which is kind of weird that he does it because the whole Packers organization and locker room and everything hasn't changed a whole lot enough. I mean, I would think that he'd have enough chemistry to play well this year, but
yeah, and it's not like he went into the season expecting to have like a team there. Then like during camp, they all got traded. Like he knew what he was going in with. So
no, exactly.
I want to make a quick little shout out to all my buddies in the AT3 fantasy football group that I'm in. I know you guys like to offer your football wisdom and you guys like try to help each other out each week on making like decisions on who we should start, who we should play. I just want to say there's a reason I don't listen to you guys and why I beat you all, because they told me that I should definitely start the Jets defense this week because Nathan Peterman was going to be playing. And if you don't know who Nathan Peterman is, he is the worst quarterback to ever step on an NFL field. He has had multiple games where he's thrown like 5 or more interceptions in one game. So how he's still in the NFL, I have no idea. But I was like, look, I understand Peterman's playing for the Bears, but I got the Dolphins defense, and they're actually playing the Houston Texans, and the Houston Texans have pretty much 100% activated hashtag throw the season mode. Now. And I think it was like maybe like midway through the second quarter, man, the Dolphins defense had like 32 points already and stuff. And like at the time, I'm pretty sure the Jets finished with like 14 or 15. So they did well for a defense, but like the Dolphins finished with 32 on the game. And I like literally put in the thing, I was like, there's a reason I don't listen to you guys when it comes to fantasy football. And some of them like got insulted by that comment, but then others laughed, of course. But yeah, man, the Dolphins looked really good this weekend. Granted, they're playing Houston Texans, but they look like they're really starting to gel. What's going on with the freaking Commanders, man? Dude, they're winning games right now.
Hey, you know why? Because Carson, it's broke Wentz isn't starting anymore, and I mean that dude Heineke is working with the weapons he has, and I mean he's kind of just doing what he did last season, which he's going on a little run. Yeah, I mean this is why Dallas has got to stay on their toes, because I mean they could find themselves being like the Giants, where the Giants are having the Commanders breathe right down their neck for putting them in the last place for the whole thing. Well, as of right now, it's crazy. The whole NFC East would be making the playoffs like today if it started today. The whole East would end up being in.
And for the past what 3-4 seasons, they've been like historically the worst past couple seasons and stuff. Well, like not last year, Dallas was pretty good, but like I remember like was it 2 years ago?
Yeah,
when,
it was like
the Commanders made it to the playoffs and they had like a losing record.
yeah, I remember that because that was the same season that Dak got hurt, I think, and it was just
Yeah.
like all the teams in the NFC East were just
They were
pretty
just
like
terrible. They're awful.
could barely get over 500. And now that division is called the NFC South with Tampa Bay, Atlanta,
Yeah.
Carolina, and the Saints. That's pretty much who they are now.
And see, like that's something that like irritates the piss out of me. Is Tampa Bay right now is currently 5-6. They are not playing good at all. In the standings, they are still, I'm pretty sure they're still first. Yeah, they're still first in their division of the NFC South, which right now it's them at 5-6, Atlanta 5-7, Carolina 4-8, New Orleans 4-8. And what really irritates me, not to like branch off into college football or anything, is like you have freaking teams like that suck and are not playing the way they should be playing as a playoff team, but as long as they stay first in their division, they'll make the playoffs. Whereas in college, these guys get 12 games and they pretty much got to win out in order to go to the playoffs. Because as soon as you lose a game, your season's pretty much done. Unless you're out of the SEC and you can lose 9 games out of 12 and you'll still find a way to get it. But like that's the only thing that annoys me with the NFL that I wish they would change. And I understand why they still have it because you got to have your divisions, but I just hate the fact that if you win your division, you're in the playoffs. Like I hate that because there's other teams that could have a really good team that year, and based off their wins and losses, they could not get a wild card spot because a crappy divisional team won their division and they automatically take up a spot. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think if you're under 500, you should not be in the playoffs, period. Even if you finish first in your division.
Yeah.
I think they need to make a new rule with that or something because
when you look at the seeding too, it's like how are the Buccaneers seed number 4 over Dallas at 8-3, Giants 7-4, and Washington 7-5, and then even the Seahawks who are at 6-5, their seed is 8th. That should be the Bucs seed. Like they should be 8th clearly out of all the teams that is named. Right?
It doesn't make any sense the way they do it.
Yeah, it's kind of silly how they organize that.
And like, I understand. You could keep that divisional format where if you like win your division, you earn a playoff spot, but then you do a breakdown of the actual like records and strength of schedule, and you could actually like determine out how those break down. Because let's say this, like let's say at the end of the season, the best team in the AFC, you say the Chiefs are what right now? They've lost what, 2 games? Is that right? Yeah, they're 9-2.
Yeah, they lost 2 games.
Okay, so let's say they only lose 2 games. Clearly the best team in the AFC. They win their division. They're the number 1 seed. Let's say the Eagles lose again. Okay, so they got 2 losses on the season. Let's say Dallas wins out. So they split with the Eagles in their games. You could then still keep Philly at 1. Dallas would be 2 based off the records of the NFC, and then the rest of your seeding can go based off of divisional wins and record.
Yeah.
And stuff like that makes the most sense to me, not, oh, you won your division, you're automatically seeded 1 through 4.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that. It's so stupid. Because all you're doing is you're making the really good teams play each other in the wild card and like opening rounds where they should be facing a crappier team. And the crappier team should be playing for a spot. But you know, the NFL won't change that. So it just
and it's not that there's anything wrong with like seeing like really competitive, good wild card matches and stuff, but it's like you also don't want to get to like the divisional round or the NFC Championship, AFC Championship, and one team is just clearly way better than the other, and they just get smacked to hell. Like it's just, it might be fun for the fans of that particular team that is winning, but you know, it's just like you said, it's better to have that balance of you're playing the good teams further in the playoffs, and in the beginning of the playoffs, it's kind of when you're playing the less skilled teams, the worser teams, rather than it being like seeded the way it is and arranged the way it is.
Did you see? Did you see what Lamar Jackson did this weekend on Twitter?
I think so. I didn't know if it was like real or it was just one of those mean tweets or someone.
I think it's real, bro. I think it's real.
He was just going off on someone.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it.
I think I know what you're talking about. It was like earlier in the week, right?
I think it was like kind of right after their game.
Yeah. It was related to the game. Yeah. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Part of me is like, bro, that does not help your case. But then the other part of me was like, I 100% agree with you because, like, half these people on here are a joke, don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, and then there's trolls and people who are just being silly and people who just don't understand altogether. But he probably deleted the tweet, but
God, where is this at?
you can probably find it somewhere. Someone had to have taken a photo and put it somewhere.
Well, I'm trying to pull it up in my group chat because the guy's like, he's a big Ravens fan.
Yeah.
And stuff. Hold on, I think I'm getting it. I don't know what's going on with my nose, man.
Oh, yeah, see, he deleted that tweet, though.
Which, that's his agent.
Yeah, I probably just told him to delete it.
100% being like, yo. Oh, yeah, here we go. So, this is what it was. A guy said, when someone's asking for over $250 million guaranteed like Lamar Jackson, games like this should not come down to Justin Tucker. Let Lamar walk and spend the money on a well-rounded team. So basically he's saying like what I've said about Rodgers, like one guy should not be getting all this money, spread it out, get a better team. And he said, bro, shut the F up. Y'all be capping too much on this app. None of you MFers never smelt the football field, never did nothing but eat a dick.
yeah.
And the guy said, the next guy after that said, hey, why don't you shake Trevor's hand after the game? Question mark. And stuff. But like, part of me, like, I mean, I laugh at it now because I've been there as a player, like seeing people say stuff about you and everything. And it doesn't matter how big of a school you're at, you still get stuff said about you from people who sit in the bleachers, up in the stands, and watch you perform, who think they can do it better and will never be on a football field at that level.
Never even practiced. Yeah.
Everybody's a coach. That's what I always used to tell people. Like, hey, man, everybody's the coach. Go out there and coach. Do better, you know? I understand that completely from his standpoint of, like, just getting tired of hearing people say stuff. There are some things that he could definitely do better as an athlete and as a quarterback, but there's also things that are out of control because he doesn't call the plays.
Yeah.
And I felt like the past couple games they've had that have been very close that they've lost late in the end has honestly been coming down to coaching and not necessarily the players executing. I feel like their coaches have kind of put them in some bad situations. So, number one, he's got to be better. If you're wanting that kind of money and stuff, you got to be better. You got to be the top guy in the league. But at the same time, honestly, like I don't really blame him for getting to that point. You know, like sometimes you just get tired of it. You know, but yeah, his agent for sure told him, dude, get rid of that get rid of that tweet. So that's pretty funny though.
Yeah, and trust me, like fans and people can be. I mean, just in general, right? You can see it in different venues and sports and whatever. Like people can be trolls, toxic, whatever. And I don't think that athletes should be obligated to always not say anything back. But of course, as an athlete, as a professional, you do have to be mindful of how you say what you say. Especially in a day and age where like you say something wrong or out of the spite of the moment, it could really get you in deeper, hotter water than you intended or even expected to be. So that's probably why. But I mean, you know, like you're right. It's kind of like I feel the same. Lamar told that guy pretty much how it is, and it's like, dude, like you don't know what it's like. You don't perform. You don't compete in these high level situations. going through injuries, over recovering, going through week to week. People don't understand that you have to make what your self-worth is known, because if not, people are going to pay you. And athletes have been underpaid for a long time in a lot of sports and asked to do a lot. If you don't believe it, go look at Tua's situation early in the season where he was examined by someone that's supposed to tell him, hey man, you can't play, or you shouldn't, because your head is still messed up. You took a good knot. No, they waived him. They approved him to play. He played again, had a really scary injury moment. I mean, it was pretty scary for everyone, including himself. And they find out, oh, well, that guy wasn't even contracted by the NFL, and he shouldn't have been given medical advice. And
that was
that's
pretty
kind of
bad
just an
situation.
example of, and it's kind of just an example of like, these guys are wanting the money that they're asking for because not only do they know what they're worth as far as their skills go, but because of the risks that they're taking and the kind of things that they have to put themselves through to be there. Now, granted, yes, everybody does sign up to play football. Everyone knows the risks, and everybody knows that you can get hurt. But nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to see that happen to you, to be permanently damaged. And that's part of the reason why these guys ask for the kind of money they do, because they know that when the whistle's blowing and the lights are on and people are moving and everything is going at 110 miles per hour, sometimes shit just happens.
Yeah.
And accidents happen, injuries will happen. So it's not just having money for yourself there and then, it's thinking about your future and the outcomes, and just it's a dangerous sport that they're playing. So I think sometimes people forget that, because we're just spectators and we're not the ones that are there taking the snaps, taking the reps, taking the hits and the bumps and the bruises and recovering, and just all the stuff that happens behind the scenes that you don't get to see as a fan, especially if you've never actually been on a football team. You don't get to see some of the stuff that happens in the background,
Wasn't it a few years back, I think it was Earl Thomas, like safety for the Seahawks, who sat out and kept saying, like, I'm not really going to play until I get like my contract that I want and all this stuff. And I think he finally got like a contract close to what he wanted. And then when he came out for the season and all that stuff, he ended up like breaking his leg and had to have surgery, and he was like done for the year. And I don't know that he came back from that. And it was like, that was like a prime example of a guy who was literally sitting there like, dude, I'm not, like, I want more money. I've been doing this for this team for a long time. Like, my career could end at any play. And like that happened to him. And I think that was the same year where like Alex Smith like pretty much snapped his leg.
Yeah, it was a gruesome leg injury. Yeah.
I think it was like either that same year or the year after, where he was like, no, like, this is what I want, or I'm not playing. Like, I'm not showing up. And I think he ended up getting what he wanted, and then he ended up like going out for the year because he got injured. And it was just kind of like, it was crazy ironic how like all that played out, and then that actually happened to him. And it was like, this is why these guys want this money, though. Like, that could happen, And I think it was more of not like the amount of money they get. I think that was more of like the guaranteed money is what a lot of them started pushing. And that's where that whole narrative changed of like, yeah, like, you can give me $100 million contract, but if you only guarantee me 20 million of it, that's really nothing. Like, I want 60 million guaranteed type deal.
Because of something like that can happen. I mean, Alex Smith had multiple surgeries he had to go through, infections. It was so bad he had to learn how to walk again under the weight of his leg, because it was just that severely broken, and the rehab and everything. The fact that he ever stepped back on a football field and took snaps again is a miracle.
I mean, they talked about him actually losing his leg, dude, at one point. Like, that, it came down to that of like, it's like, this is the last surgery where we're going to attempt this. And if we're not seeing any like progression, we're going to have to take his leg type deal. Like, that's pretty insane to think about and have to have that discussion. I couldn't imagine having to have that discussion, but
I mean, and it is because it's just playing football. You never hear about someone have to be an amputee from playing football, and that was a real possibility for him. But yeah, like you're saying, that's a big reason why these guys push for that guaranteed money, and because you can have an injury and you can never play again. And I mean, as much as we all know, like, like football, there's still, the players are people and blah, blah, blah. From a business aspect of it, from a team aspect from it, football players are expendable in the sense that they're going to replace you. Like, if you can't play, you're not going to be on the team, or at least you're not going to be on the roster. You're going to get replaced they're gonna find someone else to pay. So these guys need to get the money that they can to set them up from the future in the event that they can't do their job anymore, or for another team at that. For sure, it's an important thing because things happen, unfortunately.
Who do you think is a team right now, or some teams right now,
Mhm.
that are actual like playoff contenders and threats in the playoffs that people are overlooking currently? Like they're not really giving them the credit where credit's due. Like we talked about the Vikings, like how they were 7-1 at the time, and it's like, dude, nobody's really talking about the Vikings, and they're 7-1 right now. So like, what is it? Some other teams that you feel like are really gelling together, coming together, playing well, that are actually playoff contenders and could actually be a big threat in the playoffs that people are not considering?
I want to say it's probably, we think we're talking about them a little bit earlier. The Bengals. The Bengals are coming around this time of year. They're getting Jamar Chase back. Joe Mixon's been playing great. Higgins has been playing great. Burrow's been playing pretty well considering what he's had to deal with, even though he's still kind of having those issues of protection, getting sacked. But if you look at the division, they're right there with the Ravens. They're tied with them for the division. That these next few games are going to be big. I think that if Cincinnati can go on a run like they did last year at this time of the season and start gelling together, you might just see them right back at where they were last year in the AFC Championship game and maybe in the Super Bowl, if they get this opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. Because we did not think that. I mean, I didn't think with how bad they were playing at the beginning of the season that this was going to be where they'd be at. But if they can win out or at least win the AFC North, I think that they'll be good to go in the playoffs and make another run. It would not surprise me at all at this point if they're a lot better than what their record indicates right now. I think their best games are still coming, for sure.
They got a tough schedule. They got the Chiefs. They got the Chiefs this week.
Oh, snap!
Then the Browns. Then the Bucks. Then the Patriots. Then the Bills. And then the Ravens to end the season. So this little gauntlet they're getting ready to run through will definitely give you a really good perspective if they're actually going to make the playoffs and if they're going to be like a true threat in the playoffs. So, as the way I see it, they're going to be facing the AFC, like two potential teams that could be in the AFC Championship with the Chiefs and the Bills.
So what do you think between the San Francisco 49ers, the Bengals, the Ravens, and I want to say, because I would say the Jets, but even though the Jets are 7-4, they have like a huge debacle going on with their quarterbacks. They've started like 3 different quarterbacks this year.
Yo, Mike White actually came in and played well, man.
I was going to say, Mike White did play pretty well. I don't know how well he'll continue to play, but
I was impressed.
You never know. But Tennessee, the 49ers, the Ravens, or the Bengals, what would you see out of those 7-4 teams? Which one would you say is probably the best 7-4 team right now?
You said Tennessee, Ravens, 49ers, and who else? The Bengals?
And the Bengals? They're all 7-4.
If I had to pick out of those 4 teams, 2 of them to go to the playoffs, I'd definitely put the Niners in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the addition of Christian McCaffrey, as we've talked about on previous episodes, and dude, they actually just have a lot of weapons on offense, man. And Garoppolo, he's not a quarterback that's going to beat you deep, but he manages the game very well.
Yeah.
With his experience and stuff. I think he is going to help that team get to the playoffs. And dude, the Bengals, I like them, man, right now. Like, I think they finally figured it out up front. Joe Mixon was out this past game with a concussion, so they'll be getting him back. Jamar Chase has been out with his hip injury. They've been playing very well without 2 of their really good offensive weapons.
Yeah, and they beat a good team in the Titans.
Yeah, the Titans are tough. That was a tough game. I actually watched like quite a bit of that game. That came down like really to the 4th quarter, honestly. The Jets, I think the Jets have the defense to do it. Can't remember that running back's name. I want to say it was like Bryce Hall. If he was still there, I would consider putting the Jets in because I feel like the Bills have lost their edge. I feel like they used to be looked at earlier in the season as like this freaking
Juggernaut.
freight train coming down the tracks, and it's like you better get out of the way or you're just going to get run over by them. And they've had injuries on defense that they've had guys missing, and I don't know. I just feel like offensively, people are starting to figure them out on how they need to defend them. And a lot of it's really coming down to Jared Allen or Josh Allen. I always say Jared Allen.
Yeah, I did go too.
Josh Allen having to use his legs, I feel like a lot more. So I don't know. I just feel like people are starting to like really hone in on the Bills and got them figured out. So
And
I go with Bengals and 49ers.
yeah, because I mean, Josh Allen's really tough, and he's a really great quarterback. I mean, the dude's huge. He can run. I kind of feel like maybe what you're seeing from Josh Allen is some of the wear and tear of the season kind of wearing him down. I mean, don't get me wrong. The guy makes big plays. You love it. He makes some tough runs, but you also have to remember that he's also a quarterback, and just because he's a big quarterback doesn't mean he can't get smacked pretty good like anyone else.
He's been doing that for a couple years now too.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
so I kind of feel like he's getting beat down a bit.
He is a better Ben Roethlisberger in my eyes, because Ben Roethlisberger early in his career was a big quarterback, strong arm, accurate, but he could run, and he was hard to bring down in the pocket. And it's like Josh Allen is very much that mold, but he's a little bit more athletic, and he can actually hurt you with his legs and gain a lot of ground.
And he doesn't slide a lot.
No, he
That's
doesn't.
probably another negative. He doesn't slide.
There was some like stupid stat where it was like every game that Josh Allen has hurdled somebody, the Bills have won. And it was like that Chiefs game when he went on that long run, he hurdled somebody. And I remember a guy put it in our group chat. He goes, "Bills are winning, man. They're undefeated when he hurdles somebody," and they won that game. And I was like, this is the stupidest stat to be out there. But the thing is, though, is like you see somebody do that and stuff like 1 year, like a couple games out of the year, but he's been doing that a lot since he's been in the league. Not a lot. Like he knows when to use his legs, but over time, that's going to catch up with you. You know, like that's definitely going to catch up with you. I don't know, man. I just feel like they got them, like they really got them figured out right now. A lot of teams do. And everything. So I'll tell you one thing that's very glaring to me, and then I want to ask you a question after this one. I saw this stat and I'm trying to look it up real quick. This is extremely concerning to me, and when I bring this up, I'm just going to say right now, I did not watch this game, but looking at this stat line for the team that this group played, this is why I'm concerned. You have Jalen Hurts threw for 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. Okay. He rushed for 157 yards, averaging 9.2. Miles Sanders rushed for 21, or had 21 carries for 143 yards. If Miles Sanders is having a 143-yard game and has 2 touchdowns, why in the world is your quarterback rushing for 157 yards in a game that you are facing a 4-8 Green Bay Packers team that's not very good on defense, and you barely beat them?
Yeah.
That is like, and like I said, I didn't watch the game, so it could have been something where the Packers like had a great game plan to take rid of the passing game for them, and it caused them to run more. I don't know if there was like weather conditions or whatever, but like when I saw that, I was like, dude, that is not good. If your quarterback's sitting there doing that, and you're barely beating a team that is clearly not in it this year. Like they're just not in it when they play their games. So I just want to say that's something that if that trend continues to happen, Philly will not make a run in the playoffs because teams will figure that out real quick how to stop that.
And I agree with what you're saying.
Go ahead.
No, I agree with what you're saying. Look, I'm not just saying this because I got a Cowboys flag flying behind me. I'm just going to say it from like a football perspective. I feel like the Eagles have been able to get away with a lot of things because of the team's athleticism, because of the speed that they have, because of some of the players they have and their athletic abilities. because there has been some games that they're pretty close in that they should not have been close in, like when the in the beginning of the season with the Lions, and they had to make the comeback. They darn near lost that game. You have this game with the Packers that was pretty close. The Houston Texans almost put one on them. They lost to the Commanders at home. So it's kind of feeling like it's teetering towards, okay, not to say that you don't earn wins in the NFL, but what's going on in these football games where you're playing a team like this and you're supposed to be this team that's this much better. You're 10-1, right? You're this really good team. You're playing football teams that aren't that great or shouldn't be up to par with you, but you're finding yourself either struggling or you're having to overextend what some of the players have to do, like you were mentioning with Hurts having to do all those rushing yards, your starting quarterback, and somehow he has to do that to help you win the game because your running back running for over 125 yards and 2 touchdowns isn't enough. Your defense isn't keeping up with your offensive production, so it's forcing Hurts to have to make more plays with his legs. What's going on that you guys are kind of, I guess you could say, overextending your abilities? I kind of feel like it's just athleticism. Some of these games that they're getting by with, like if the guys weren't as fast as they are, if they weren't just getting away with some of these quick plays and scrambles and stuff, that they probably wouldn't be in the position they are, because in some of the games where Jalen Hurts is better contained and isn't able to scramble around like he does, they get shut down, Granted, sure, they've only lost one game, but there's moments in some of those games that were close that shouldn't have been close at all, where they were doing something right to slow and stop them down. Yeah. But in the end, because they just have the better players and athletes for that particular game, that's probably what they won. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of feel like we're watching kind of like how Kyler Murray played with the Cardinals for a hot 10 or 11 games where they're just killing it. And then they got closer to the playoffs, and it was like, once it come playoff times, they got figured out, and it was just like there was nothing. Yeah, they had a terrible playoff game.
They weren't even the same team.
Yeah, and even when like a guy like Michael Vick was out there, yeah, sure, he had great regular season games, but then they kind of get to the playoffs, and it's kind of be like, well, team kind of got them figured out. Their option plays,
it's
the sweep that they like to run.
Like Lamar Jackson.
Same thing with Lamar Jackson. I mean,
last year or the year before, they played great all season, and then they ran into the Patriots in the playoffs. And
the Bills, and
they just shut them down. Yeah, the Bills just shut them down.
Yeah, and then an end game, Lamar Jackson had opportunity in the game, throws a pick, and it was over in the playoffs. Yeah. It's just, it kind of feels reminiscent of those seasons because you've kind of seen teams like this with this kind of prototype and blueprint that they've built the Eagles on, and the kind of quarterback they have. You've kind of seen this play out before, where things start out great and hot during the season, but then when it comes down to crunch time, they don't get away with what they were getting away with on a regular basis in the regular season. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So here's my question that I was going to get around to for you. Who do you think is set up better to beat the Eagles, all right, with their team right now? Mm-hmm. The Cowboys and Dak Prescott, or Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers?
That's a good question.
Because I saw this when I was at the gym earlier, working out, just cranking it out and everything. I was sitting there and I looked up, and on SportsCenter, I can't remember what show it was, but they posed that question. I was like, oh, dude, that's actually a really good question. And I was going to save that for tonight. So who is better fit to beat the Eagles this next time around? Jimmy G and the Niners, or Dak and the Cowboys?
That's a really good question. I mean, you're talking about two really potent defenses that have been at the top of their game all season, that create turnovers, create pressure on the quarterback, and can be a lot of trouble. Have a pretty solid secondary for both teams. Obviously, Dallas has their offensive weapons that can be pretty explosive, like we've seen over the last few weeks, even against a good team like the Vikings. Same thing with the 49ers, and that's because they just got McCaffrey and they're still starting to gel. I honestly want to say I would feel like Dallas is, because they've been there and they've done it before. They know this team. Definitely having to play them 2 times a year pretty well. Having to play them 2 times a year every single year versus the 49ers, you may or may not see them every now and then, every other season. Dak has a pretty good record against NFC East teams. And the Eagles, I'd probably have to look up what his all-time record is against it, but I would feel probably more confident, especially if we can really get these next 3 games under our belts and get what should be wins, which is going to be against the Colts coming up, Houston, Jaguars. I mean, it sounds like a cakewalk. It should be. By any means, I don't take any of those games lightly either because they're still NFL games, and we've seen stuff happen where weaker teams come and punch a good team in the mouth. So I would definitely don't want that to happen. But I think we're really getting set up and prepared to really make it a better game than we saw with Cooper Rush earlier in the season, especially when you talk about having additions like possibly like Odell Beckham or just getting guys back that we didn't have for that game before as well. I think we're in would be in a better position right now to play the Eagles than the 49ers, just based on the experience they already have with playing that team, being familiar with them and playing them regularly, especially Dak understands the intensity and importance of that rivalry matchup, especially when we're talking about division implications. So, yeah, that's how I would probably go with Dallas.
So, when I saw that, I started thinking about it. I kind of started breaking down both teams. All right. You got Dalton Schultz, George Kittle. I personally would lead a little bit towards Kittle being better.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah.
Then you got CeeDee Lamb. You could say Deebo Samuel. They're very comparable to each other. You got Michael Gallup, Brandon Ayuko, I think, or Ayoko, however you say his name. They're very comparable to each other.
Yeah.
I think the thing that stands out personally when you break down the two teams is Christian McCaffrey is very unique. And he is very, versatile when it comes to a team's offense. But behind him, I know they have, is it Elliott Mitchell, I think they have? I can't remember their backup's name. He's not as dynamic of an asset to that offense as Tony Pollard is to Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
I think you have two really solid backs with the Cowboys that can make a huge difference in the way that the game is played for the Cowboys offensively and how defenses have to prepare for that.
Yeah.
But I'm not just saying that because, I know you're a Cowboys fan and stuff. I really think if they utilize the backs the way they did against the Vikings and they make that stuff kind of work for them, it opens up your secondary way more. And it takes up pressure off of Dak. The other opponent or key component that I'm leaning towards when it comes to I think the Cowboys would be better fit to beat them is it's very hard, no matter at what stage of the game you're at, to beat a team twice.
Yeah.
Because historically looking at games, you see teams like Philadelphia will sit there and they'll be like, okay, we picked them apart with this. We did a lot of motions across, read options, hit A.J. Brown out into the flats, got him the ball quick. They're going to try to mimic similar things like that again against Dallas. But Dallas is going to be a good football team. Dan Schultz, that's your defense coordinator, right?
David Quinn.
Dan Quinn. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot, bro, right now. My mind's all over the place. People are putting emotes in the chat. I don't know what's going on. Dan Quinn. All right. I said Dan Schultz. I'm a freaking idiot. Dan Quinn is a very good defense coordinator, and he is going to break that stuff down. And that, I think, puts a team that won the first time at a disadvantage because you don't know how teams can now prepare for your success that you previously had. So it's almost like the tables have turned. It's like, oh, we see what you guys can bring to the table now. We know what your upper hand is. We now know how to stop it. And it's like when you go into that game and you start as an offense seeing that, oh, what we did before is not working, you now have to try to figure it out in game. How are we going to get by this defense? And that's very hard to do at any level. I've seen, I'm going to throw Ohio State out here as an example. I've literally seen Ohio State go and play teams like Iowa and Wisconsin and Northwestern and absolutely throttle them in the regular season. And then one of those teams faces them again in the Big Ten championship. And what happened before does not happen in that Big Ten championship game. The game is much tighter, much closer, and it takes Ohio State midway through the fourth to actually pull away from that team. And that's honestly because they have better athletes like than that team. Whereas in the NFL, we all know those guys that are in the NFL are pretty much the top 1% of football players in the world.
Yeah.
So I would lean towards Dallas being better equipped to beat Philadelphia because they already saw what Philly's best punch was. And they're also being able to see these previous games now of what teams are doing to them that is causing them to have closer games. And these teams do not have the defense that Dallas has.
Yeah.
You know, like I said it last week, the NFL is very much a big copycat league. One team's success becomes the next team's success because they're going to model that same thing that they just did to win. You know, and then especially if you have a defense like Dallas, you can do a little bit more with that. You can tweak it even more to fit the needs of your team. So,
yeah, and I feel like in that first game with Philadelphia that Dan Quinn had a really good defensive game plan mapped out for Philadelphia. And I feel like it worked well up to a certain point. Of course, you know, we kind of had to probably look at maybe utilizing Micah Parsons in a different way because it kind of seemed like they were burning him out, having him rush in the end, and then sometimes, you know, the over pursuit with doing things like when you over pursue or have like a heavy blitz defense and then you're going against teams that are running speed option, quarterback option, that can really bite you in the ass because you're over pursuing. You're missing your lane or whatever, and a guy just blows right by you. You didn't even get a chance right to grab him, whatever. I don't see Dan Quinn regressing from that game plan that he has to play. He's gonna find out. He's gonna look at what worked in the first game, looked at what they can do better, and then go from there to make a plan of what we got available to adjust to what he did the first time. And then also you could also argue that the offense would hopefully be more better with having Dak at quarterback, with utilizing Pollard and Zeke the way they have been recently, whether that's splitting the carries down the middle, giving Pollard a little bit more of the carries and giving Zeke some of the short yard stuff, whatever works, right? I think that, you know, whatever game plan that Dallas comes up with, it's going to be that much better for the Eagles because it's not like they exactly just got blown out by any means on that first game and kind of did have an opportunity to come back. But unfortunately, you know, Cooper Rush couldn't make it happen that way with some turnovers in the second half. But yeah, we weren't blown out by any stretch of the imagination. So I could definitely see Dan Quinn writing up an even better defensive plan for the Eagles this time around, which is going to obviously be a big game in general because we don't want to go and lose to any divisional opponents 2 times in one season. Yeah. And then, like you said, it's hard to beat teams twice in 1 year because of that. I think we'll be better prepared this time, regardless, you know, and hopefully we can actually make some more impact plays that we can sustain our drives and get some scores in, and then we should be okay to go. Because I feel like that's probably the thing that held us back the most. It wasn't necessarily the defense, but just our offense wasn't able to get going in those big moments like it is now. So, yeah, I definitely feel confident going into this Eagles game, and exactly why I want us to take care of business these next 3 weeks against these lesser skilled teams that really aren't very good if you look at their records and as a whole, but we still have to take them very seriously and still have to have a good game plan and build the momentum on top of what has already been built since that Vikings game. You know what I mean? So definitely want to keep the ball rolling on that for sure, and they should be all right.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be all right. Like you said, though, they can't overlook these teams they got coming up. Like, they got to take care of business there and stuff, which they should. They definitely should. But yeah, man, I just saw that question like at the gym, and I was like, damn, that's actually a really good question and stuff. And I want to get your take on it. Not to say that I don't think the 49ers could beat them either. Like, I think they could, you know, but I just think Cowboys are better equipped with already facing that opponent and everything earlier in the season. So
yeah, and I mean, and honestly, if you want to be honest, if the Green Bay Packers can drop 33 on Philadelphia and we have a much better defense than them, I don't think we could stop our offense from doing that same thing.
Yeah.
It's just going to take some hard work, and it's going to take everyone doing their job, and also us not having any penalties, hopefully. So hopefully that gets cleaned up too. But yeah, I definitely feel like we're well equipped to face Philadelphia on this next time coming up.
So that's going to wrap it up for us on this episode. We appreciate everybody stopping by today. That's been in the chat. Bunny, Victor, we appreciate you guys. Once again, I am selfless_gaming. If you are not subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Stay up to date with what we'll be posting. Also, be sure to hit that like button down below on the stream today. And all of our socials are in the description area. I put down there all of my socials as selfless_gaming. And then I also put little Jacobs as well down there. So be sure to click on those links. Give us a follow on our other sites as well. We do stream on Twitch quite often. We are going to be doing all of our podcast episodes live on YouTube though. With that being said, but yeah, as far as like our other streaming content and stuff for TikTok, Twitch, all those links should be down there. Be sure to throw us a follow if you're not. We do appreciate y'all stopping by though. And honestly, I just hope everybody has a good rest of the work week. USA made the World Cup today. They qualified. So that's pretty freaking awesome to see those guys do that. You got anything else, bro?
No, that's it. Just everyone take care, be safe, and we'll be going into college football playoffs pretty soon. That's exciting. That's going to start. So definitely some more stuff to go over. I know one of my buddies wanted to definitely talk about some college football as well. So maybe we can get him on here and see what his thoughts and takes are on the teams that are coming up. Yeah,
there'll be all the conference championship games are this weekend. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty upset with the performance of Ohio State and what had happened this past weekend, but that's why you play the games, you know? If everything was based off paper, then we'd win every national championship, but it's not. So we'll just have to see what happens, where the cards fall. But after what I saw this weekend, if they don't perform better and stuff, then I don't really want to see them in the playoffs and have the same thing happen again. So always remember, take care of yourselves. Let's continue to take care of each other. Don't forget, guys, you're one in a melon. All right. We love you. We hope you all have a good week. Be good.
Later.
Peace.